Okay, well, this is an interview with Jimmy Durham, part two, I guess we'll say. We did an interview about 5 years ago, but why don't we just start today by you telling us, this may be an unfair question, how long have you lived in Ackworth?
Well, truthfully, in the city of Ackworth, 2 years.
2 years, okay.
We moved into town from our home place on Mars Hill Road, where I had lived virtually all my life. I was a quarter of a mile from the house I was born in, where Durham School is now. We had a house in Ackworth that we decided to get out of traffic and come into the little town that we have loved so dearly all of our lives, and renovated a house we had and really enjoy it. My memory of Ackworth goes back to my days as a very young child. We had a farm. I grew up on a farm. We had the milk and
the
eggs.
farm's on Mars Hill Road at...
where the Durham and Fry elementary schools are now.
Right.
That was the farm.
Right.
But we would come to town on Saturday and bring chickens, turkeys, eggs, butter, and for Mom to buy the groceries that we couldn't grow, which should have been coffee, sugar, the staples that we couldn't produce ourselves. And of course, what I did was, while she was shopping, is I went to the movie, paid 10 cents to go to the movie. But those were the early memories I have of town. But to answer your question, we've lived in the Ackworth community virtually all my life. My wife was actually born on Main Street, so we've been in this area.
Talk a little bit about the farm that you grew up on, and you were telling me a little bit earlier about inheriting I guess the Durhams inherited the farm from your grandmother's side of the family.
That's correct. The farm was originally 300 or 400 acres. I do not remember exactly. The Corps of Engineers bought a good portion of it when they built Lake Allatoona, because it was on part of it went down through the creek in Lake Allatoona Creek. But it was when I was growing up, it was we did some row crop, but mostly it was a cattle operation. My dad had a dairy, small dairy. Back then there was small independent dairies around in the community. I think there was like 3 or 4 in Ackworth area. But we brought our milk to town, to Mr. Terry, who had the dairy in town. We had, over the years, my dad moved it from a dairy operation more to a beef cattle production. And that's what I remember more about it than anything else. I milked the cows. My job was milk afternoons. We had 15 cows we milked.
You only milk in the afternoon?
No, they milked the morning because I had school.
Okay.
So, but my job was to do the milking in the afternoon. When I got old enough, my brother did it before I did. But it was an interesting. For a long time, I didn't particularly care for milk. Raw milk has a very distinct smell. It's not bad, but it's just one of those things. One of the interesting things that I had when we were growing up, though, with the dairy was my mom loved cats. I think at one time she had 15 cats. Well, the cats learned that if they would go to the dairy, there's always going to be some spilled milk. So they would come and in milking, we had a milking machine where we actually hooked up to the udder of the cow and milked it. But then you had to, what we call, strip it out, and it would get a little more milk out of the udder. Now those cats would sit there and wait for me to squirt that milk into their mouth. I'd have 5 or 6 cats waiting for milk. That was interesting. But
what a fabulous place for the cats to run all over a farm.
Absolutely.
I did an interview once with Cassie Chastain, and they had a dairy farm.
Right, I remember.
She said it was worse than being on a chain gang. Never got a day off. She had to
Nope.
be out there at 4 in the morning and 4 at night.
2 times a week, 7 on 24.
Yeah, she'd hear the train go
24/7.
by and she knew it was time to be out there doing the evening milking.
Exactly. The cows would let you know too. They would let you know.
So you grew up there, but you came into town to go to school?
Yes. The prior to Ackworth, to the school consolidation of schools in the county, there were 2 schools out in that community, Mars Hill and Allatoona School. They were 1-room schoolhouses. And the one that at Allatoona is at the Allatoona, the one at Mars Hill is at the Mars Hill Cemetery.
Right.
The building there was not a church. That was not the church. That was the school.
Okay.
I don't remember the last.
But you didn't go there?
I did not. My brother, who was 7 years older than I am, he actually went to school there. But the schools were consolidated. Mr. Paul Sprayberry, I think, was one of the, if he wasn't the first superintendent, he was one of the first superintendents of the county after the consolidation. They closed those schools there, and we had Ackworth that we attended.
So the cemetery's on Mars Hill Church Road, but it's not really a church, it's a school.
Right.
Next to
That
the cemetery.
was the original school that my dad went to school there and was on the board of directors of the school. So I don't know how far back it goes, but it would have been a long ways because, as I say, he went to school there when he was like 15, 16 years old.
And then Mars Hill Presbyterian Church was where you all went?
That's where, yes.
And that wasn't far away from where you lived, was it?
No, it's very close there. And in fact, a little more history there with that property is my grandfather had a cotton gin directly across the road from Mars Hill Church. That was also destroyed in the same tornado that took the house away. A lot of the homes were destroyed in that period of time.
So your grandfather Durham had the...
Yes.
Okay, had the...
Nathan. An interesting thing with the cotton gin, and if I go too far on this, you tell me to stop.
No.
An interesting there is when the cotton gin was blown away, it was steam operated. It had a whistle, steam whistle. It came off of a steamship in Savannah, Georgia. I don't know the details about how it got to Ackworth, Georgia, but anyway, when the storm blew away, the Keenels had opened the mill in Ackworth. They did socks and they did other things before that. They did hosiery, women's hosiery. They bought that whistle.
Okay.
And that whistle stayed on there. And if other people haven't mentioned it, they will, or you ask them about it. The whistle now is in the museum.
Okay.
We donated it to the museum. That whistle was blown at time to go to work, lunchtime, come back from work, and then every single day. We could actually hear the whistle from our home on Mars Hill Road.
Wow.
But anyway, when they closed that plant, my dad said, "You need to go get that whistle." I said, "Why do I need a whistle like that? I don't have anything to blow it." No, and then he told me the history of it. He said, "No, you need to go get that whistle."
Wow.
So Mr. Bob Keenel and I negotiated the sale of that, and I bought it. And it's a treasure. I wouldn't take $1,000 for. Oh, I wouldn't take $5,000 for it. Of course, it belongs to the city. It belongs to the History Foundation now.
For sure. Well, tell me a little bit about Ackworth Elementary School, teachers and so on.
Ackworth Elementary, because I started the first grade, and recently somebody posted a picture of our first grade class on Facebook. Interestingly, there's still a lot of those people still living, and a lot of them still live in the Ackworth community. It was interesting. We had a large class. Back then, there was probably 40 kids in the class.
Wow. And you were born in 39, so
Born-
we're talking early 40s.
Yeah, 46, 47, whatever. Miss Fanny B. McClure was my first grade teacher. She was a first grade teacher for a lot of us. Miss Fanny B. honored us when we had a 50th wedding anniversary party. My son put it on for us. She came to our anniversary party. When we'd been married 50 years, she was there. So, but she was as far as influence in my life, she was probably the first person that had major influence with my life, because she was such a dedicated teacher. She was a dedicated Methodist member, a Christian, and a true lady. And she was from first grade all the way through high school. Actually, the class that I had my first grade in, later the Ackworth High School built a new building, and the first grade class was in that new building. I had a course in that classroom as a senior. But a lot of good things I remember in school. Of course, I went on through high school. My wife I met, we had known each other all of our lives. Supposedly, their parents, or dad anyway, visited the farm when we were about 5 or 6 years old. I don't remember that, but somebody once said, well, y'all have known each other all your life, so we have, but...
Was she in the same grade you were in?
No, she was a year behind.
Okay.
Her mother died when she was a child, and her dad, she lived with her grandparents before he remarried, but they lived in other areas, and she moved back to Ackworth in the 10th grade. And I'll tell this story on her. Sometimes she doesn't like me to tell it, but a friend of mine, and he died recently, that he always attested and said, that's the truth. We were standing in the hall, and she was at her locker. I distinctly remember her standing there. And I don't know what it was, but I told him, I said, one day I'm going to marry that girl. I did 3 years later.
Wow.
65 years ago. So we will be celebrating our 65th wedding anniversary in August.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Wonderful marriage. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but she's been a true partner, true... I couldn't be without her. Any success, whatever success is that I might claim, I've got to give her a lot of credit for standing behind me. Sometimes she didn't agree with me, but I wouldn't be where I wouldn't have had the success and made the friends and so forth. Beautiful family, and we're close. Her brother and I are like brothers. So it's, but we both graduated. She was the last graduating class from Ackworth High School.
Oh, okay.
And then it became North Cobb.
Okay, so you would have graduated in 57?
57. She graduated in 58.
And that was it. And then after that, North Cobb opened about that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any conflict or difference between city kid or town kids and country kids?
They loved to come to the country. That was the difference. We had, my mom was an excellent cook. And there were very few weekends in the summer that we didn't have kids from town. They would come out to help with the farm, do hay work or whatever we needed, but they came to eat.
So you didn't divide into two groups?
No. I had very close friends that were town kids. Dated several of the girls that were in town. So no, there was no.
Okay. So You go all the way through high school at Ackworth High School. Who was the principal?
T.C. Cantrell
Okay,
he was the last principal there.
okay.
Mr. T.C. and his wife was, she taught, what you would call the class. It was like typing, business, a business class. And I give her credit for teaching, being patient with me and teaching me how to type.
Oh, okay.
That class and her preparation got me a job at FDIC. And I did the reports. I typed the reports that the examiners turned in. And then when Uncle Sam decided he needed me for Vietnam, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Can we cut that?
That's okay, yeah.
I thought I had cut it off.
You can just start over with when Uncle Sam needed you for Vietnam.
Yeah, that's what I do with mine. I haven't turned it off. I've just got it on where it only. Well, I've got a hearing aid, so it only plays in my ear if the phone rings.
Now I got it off.
Probably
Okay.
I think I probably better turn it off, so I'll come to think of it before we get started back. Just make sure I don't even want it playing in my ear. Okay, you ready? Okay. Uncle Sam.
Yeah. I had been with FDIC about 5 years, and this was.
This is straight out of high school?
No, I actually worked for Kelly Motor Company. I don't know if you remember the old Chrysler
Yeah.
dealership on Roswell Road.
Okay.
My first job out of high school, before I went into any kind of college, was working at the parts department at Kelly Motor Company.
Okay.
$35 a week. And I worked there, and eventually ended up with FDIC. I debated on whether to go. My dad was a postal carrier. He always encouraged me, well, you need to go to work for the post office. Well, I put my application into the post office and got accepted, but I was going to have to go to Atlanta to work.
Oh, didn't want to go to Atlanta.
Not from Ackworth, and they want to move. But anyway, I got accepted for FDIC and ended up in Atlanta anyway. But I worked there at 5 Points, and then Vietnam conflict came about, and they picked up the draft, and I was about to be drafted. I decided I did not want to go into the Army, so I checked out Naval Air Reserve program at Dobbins Air Force Base. When they found out that I knew how to type, they said, "We want you." I said, "Okay."
What year was this?
This would have been 1962.
62. Okay. Still, of course, Kennedy is president. We still only had about 17,000 or so troops there, didn't we, in Vietnam?
Exactly. But I was fortunate in that with the talents that I had been prepared for in the job, or not necessarily talent, but the training that I had, I was stationed at the Naval Air Station for 3 years. I took care of the pilots' logbooks and did their reports for that period of time. So, and I got out. I was discharged before the real conflict.
Yeah, about the time the big build-up had begun. So you'd have been out in 65 then?
67.
67? You were there 5 years?
Well, the program was 60. It was actually a 6-year program. I think I went in 61. Started 61 and got out 67.
Oh, okay.
It was a longer program, but I spent 3 years active duty.
Okay.
I was in the reserve.
Oh,
program.
3 years active and then 3 years reserve? Okay. But it was Dobbins the whole time, or?
Naval Air Station, which is no longer there.
Right.
There's a really interesting thing happened to me there. Because I was active at Mars Hill. We had a real good softball team. Well, we were playing at Perry Parham Field in Marietta. You probably remember.
Yeah,
It's
Perry Parham,
Perry
yeah.
Parham Field.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing in the outfield, and somebody hit a ball, fly ball over, and I ran to catch it. Well, I didn't see it, but there was a culvert there that had a
Oh, no.
pipe. And as I approached that culvert, I didn't see it, and I jumped. I actually had, but I caught my leg and snapped my leg,
Wow.
broke it.
Mm.
I was about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months short of being able to be discharged. Well, of course, they wouldn't let me out. You know, no, we've got to fix you up. So, where did I end up? Fort Benning, Georgia.
Fort Benning.
Fort Benning. It was the closest hospital that could take care of what I needed. Well, here I was, a Navy guy, laid up in the hospital with a broken leg from playing softball. Next to me, this Army guy who just jumped out of an airplane in a parachute and broke his leg. I was not a very popular person. So, but it was an interesting experience. Fortunately, the captain or the commander at the Naval Air Station, we were friends, and I finally got in touch. You got to get me home. You got to get me out. And he did. So,
My brother was at Fort Benning for a while.
yeah. A lot of guys there were learning how to parachute out of airplanes. But
Wow. You wanted to say something, I think, about how schools were different back then than they are today.
well, yeah, I think what I see now with the kids is the lack of respect. The lack of respect for their teachers, their classmates, and I think lack of respect for themselves. I mean, it's just the news media is just full of incidents where a student's attacked a teacher, physically attacked a teacher. You would never think about doing something like that. Yeah, we had spats amongst ourselves, but you respected your teachers. But by the same token, I'm not sure the teachers have the same respect for them, for what they do. A lot of them don't, and that's a very small percentage. Because in working with Durham School, when we opened the school there, I was on the foundation board and worked very closely with them for several years. And there's some great teachers there. So, but I just see that difference. We had a respect for each other and a lot of respect for the teachers.
Well, there's certainly a lot of turnover
Oh, yeah.
in the teaching profession today.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so you're in the military into '67. You go to college sometime along the line. When was that?
I went to Atlanta Law School. Actually went there before I went into the service. Had 2 years. I don't know that I ever thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wanted the legal knowledge. At that point, I didn't even know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, but Atlanta Law School, and of course, when I went into service, I had to drop out of that, and then I did not go back. I should have gone back because I could have gone back another year and actually gotten a degree. Then you could get a degree in 3 years, but I didn't. I went to Georgia State. Went to actually Kennesaw. So it was kind of a smattering of different things. Kind of depending on what I thought I wanted to do. I actually went to Georgia Tech for a class. So just different things. I don't know that I really had a strong desire after I married. My ultimate early desire was to be a veterinarian, and that did not work out. So, but I look back over my careers, because my wife used to say, "Well, it's been 5 years now. What you going to do next?" So, but I made so many good friends and so good relationship. I'm not sure I'd change a thing. I'm not sure I'd change anything.
Now, when did you get involved with the JCs?
This would have been in the, I guess it would have been after service. We still had an active group then. Larry Braden was involved with it, Jim Eaton, Lloyd Perry, even people around Marietta. They had a chapter down there. We'd interact and go to Jekyll on trips together. And I made a lot of good friends with those folks. They were businessmen who really had the interest of the city of Ackworth and the community, not just the city, at heart.
Yeah. Now, JCs used to be very important, I think, in the community.
They did.
I think Ernest Barrett was a JC.
He was. Ernest was a little older, but we were in clubs at the same time.
Yeah.
I think Johnny Isaacson was also in that same group in Marietta.
What happened to the JCs?
I don't know.
They were JCs for Junior Chamber of Commerce, wasn't it? Is that the JC?
Junior Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but JCs at one time was strictly a men's group. And the ladies decided they wanted to be a part of it. So I think that was one of the problems. They could never assimilate. They joined. They formed their own group so that they were the lady JCs. But I think that was the kind of fragmentation that caused it. But
Wow.
I could be wrong.
Why did they have trouble assimilating?
Well, it was just strictly that the men wanted to be men.
The men were, okay. They wanted their own group.
The ladies went with us on our trips, but it just wasn't, the timing was not right.
That's funny. I remember going out to with the old men from the church. We still have our gathering once a month, but we were at one table, and the next table over was a bunch of old women from somewhere else, and I just think there's something wrong with this picture.
Well, thank goodness it's changed. It changed for the better.
Yeah. What other groups were you involved in besides the JCs in the community?
Well, along about that time, I was heavily involved in the church. My wife and I both were officers and different activities. We were primarily church related at that point. And then, of course, in the 70s, 69, 70, we opened a store where McDonald's is now. It was called Durham's Jiffy Junction. It was a real old-fashioned convenience store. We sold seed, feed, fertilizer, the whole works. And
it's old-fashioned because it caters to farmers as well as
the community.
Cityville.
We even had charge accounts, so that people, if they didn't have money to buy groceries, we charged it, and they paid for it on Friday when they got paid.
This is pre-credit. This is pre-credit card the way we think about it today. But a lot of stores had their own credit.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that was that took up a lot of time. We stayed there until 75. The interstate came through. We did not know the interstate was coming in that close to us when we bought the store. And it did come closer, and when they brought it in, they did the interchange and did a huge amount of construction there, and took a lot of our front parking lot and dirt, mud, and everything, and then we just said,
Okay, so you're talking I-75, which opened in the late '77.
Right.
So where exactly was the store?
Where McDonald's is.
Okay.
It'd be on if you're going out from Ackworth now on 92 and turn left to go on toward the interstate, right there at that
Glade
that
Road?
corner. No, 92.
92, sorry. Oh, yeah. Wow. That's a busy intersection
Oh, yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. And it was busy then because that's when the 75 stopped there for a period of
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
So we had traffic for a couple of years while they were finishing that.
Yeah.
But that took up a lot of our time. We just closed the store and went back to work.
So the interstate wasn't good for business because it's local business?
Right, and the traffic and the construction, dirt, dust, just it was not good.
Yeah. So this is your first business after you got out of the military?
Yes, that would have been my first business venture.
And then it goes to about 75.
75, we closed the store, 75.
And then what do you do after that?
I went to Kennesaw State and got my real estate license and started selling real estate.
Okay.
My wife went back to work at Lockheed.
So let's see, 75, we're still at junior college.
Yep.
We're in the transition period,
Right.
but still,
Yep.
Did you get a degree from Kennesaw?
No, I just took a class to get my real estate license.
Oh, okay.
So, and then got into real estate, started selling real estate, commercial, residential. Let's see, we opened this. I went to work with another partner in another convenience store for a couple of years, and then we didn't stay partners there for a while. And I went back into real estate, and then in '86, 12 of us guys decided we needed a bank, a community bank in town, and we opened up Alatoona Federal Savings Bank.
Okay. So that's 86?
'86, we started an organization. I think we actually opened in '88.
Okay.
But Larry Braden, I don't know if I can name all 12 of them or not. Larry Braden, Lamar Adams, who's deceased, Lloyd Perry, who's deceased, Jim Eaton, Alvin Deemer, Harold Harrison was involved. I can't remember the others. But anyway, I was on the board, and we had some issues, and they weren't serious issues, but I kind of thought, man, I think that'd be fun.
What?
I thought to myself, I think that'd be fun to work in a bank. I had no knowledge whatsoever of working in a bank. I went to the president, talked to the board first, and I told them, I said, I'd like to go to work in the bank, and learn how to do commercial lending. So they were fine with it. So I went to the president and I told him, I said, I want to come into the bank to work and be mentored by you. And there was another fellow there that I respected. And I worked 6 months for nothing. If you just let me learn how to be a banker. It was fine with him. Free money, free labor. So I went in and worked full time, and then I stayed in banking after that. So it was a career move that was my most enjoyable work, was in banking.
Wow.
And I think about that now, and I originally did mortgage lending, and so many of the young folks that were customers at the store came to me then and said, I want to buy a house. Can you help me buy a house? Well, sure. So
Back to real estate.
real estate, bank, back to real estate to some degree. So, but even now, I've had folks come back to me and say, do you remember you helped me get my first house? And that, I thought, wow, I don't remember that, but even some of their children have come to me and say, I remember when you helped us get our first house. that period of time at the store was a special time. It was a tough time for some folks, and it was a tough time for us. It was difficult. We lost a lot of money there because of the inconvenience of it, but banking was my favorite occupation, I guess, over the years. I actually retired from banking twice.
So how long does this last the first time?
Well, we had a company out of Atlanta. They were not a bank. They wanted a bank charter. So they bought us out in, I think it was 1990.
Oh, so it doesn't last very long.
No, it was 80. It was either 90 or 92. I don't remember exactly the years there, but our board was. I was not ready to sell, but some of the older guys, they said, "Well, let's go ahead and sell it." But anyway, I stayed on with them.
With the company.
With the new
that bought
company, it was called Premier.
Premier, okay.
And then they stayed. I guess it was about 3-4 years later, BB&T acquired Premier.
Okay.
And
Did the name change?
Yes.
When,
Became BB&T. And I stayed on with BB&T and retired from BB&T. Let's see, it would have been about 19. Probably, I don't remember the year, but I stayed on with them till I was 65 and retired.
Till you were 65.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what were some of the unusual experiences you had at Alatoona Federal Savings Bank?
We got robbed 3 times. So,
Were you there when it was
I
being
was
robbed?
there
Mm.
all 3 times. We had one of our doors that when it came up to it, it faced, I can't remember the name of the street now, but anyway, it faced the street that went back in behind what then was Kmart, and then onto the interstate. This guy would come up on a motorcycle, get off his motorcycle, walk in the door, go to the teller, hop back on the motorcycle, go behind the store. Twice, I didn't know what was going on until it was done. The third time, I saw him come in the door, and I thought, oh no, not again. It made me so mad. It flew all over me. I chased him, which was a mistake. Obviously should never do that. He didn't have a gun. I didn't think he had a gun because he kept his hand in his pocket. And I walked to him and I said, "You do not have a gun." And he turned around. Of course, when he turned around, he headed for the door. Believe it or not, he was a probation officer for the city of Ackworth.
You're kidding.
Nope. And where did he do with his motorcycles? He rode them over and dumped them in the lake. And when the lake went down, with the lowest point, they found his motorcycle.
Wow.
In the water. So that was an interesting experience.
I guess so.
Dangerous, but
So we got arrested?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know the disposition of it. I never did know. But that was one of the things I remember.
We've skipped over the Ackworth Business Association. Can you talk a little bit about how you became a member of the Ackworth Business Association?
As an owner of the convenience store, that made me eligible, and there was a good group. We struggled. Ackworth died twice. When 41 was built first, a lot of the businesses in Ackworth, in the town of Ackworth, went over there to open up because of traffic. I mean, that's where the traffic was. Up until then, the street going through Ackworth was the main thoroughfare from Ohio to Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
That was the Dixie Highway. And then when the interstate opened up, then a lot of the businesses then moved again. So
Right.
I think the Aqua Business Association was the glue that actually kept the town together and brought it back for that.
So the 41 would have been completed through Cobb County about 1950,
50.
and then quarter century later,
Right.
you've got 75.
And those two periods of time, you saw the businesses. At one time, downtown Ackworth was like a ghost town. You might have had 3 or 4 operating businesses. Henry came in and opened a restaurant, and I rightfully give Henry a lot of credit for his expertise there and what he had, but he wasn't the only reason. There was a lot of leadership in the council. The mayor, Mary Andruzzi, at that time,
Marcia Andruzzi.
Marcia Andruzzi, she had worked hard on getting some funding for the city, and then of course Tommy Olligood came in after her and picked her what she had worked up.
What all did the Ackworth Business Association do?
Well, they promoted local businesses. We met once a month at Daddy's Country Kitchen, which was the original Daddy's Country Kitchen, which was in the shopping center south of town. We had breakfast there once a month to talk about the different issues that the town faced, and then be able to share those back with the city.
Yeah.
So I think the business association obviously is very strong now. I think they got 400 or 500 members now. It's huge. But I think it was very influential in bringing the city back.
In your business dealings, what stands out about dealing with Ackworth's departments?
Well, I was, one other, the board member and myself were in charge of the construction of Alatoona Federal Savings Bank building, which meant dealing with zoning, plans, the whole works. And one individual with the city, his name is Lloyd Fasselt. He just retired. Lloyd was a by the book. But when you got through, you knew you had what you should have. He was a pleasure to work with. And of course, the people that worked under him too. But I think of Lloyd as much as anything. Of course, Tommy is a good personal friend of mine. Tommy and I go way back, and he can tell you some stories about that. I won't go into detail about our relationship, but it's been good a long time. We also, and then after Alatoona Federal Savings Bank, and in my dealings in real estate, commercial lending, I had to deal with the city a lot. The city clerk at that time, and I don't remember, there was several different ones, but then I do remember the city treasurer, which she's retired too. She was real helpful in taxes and helping me understand how taxes that I needed to deal with and all that. So my relationship with the city has been way above board and just really unusual.
Yeah. You have current business dealings with the city?
I do. I'm a minor partner with another individual who acquired the old Unique Knitting Mill property, which is North Main Street. He's owned it about 15 years ago, and I partnered up with him about 10 years ago after I retired the second time from banking. to manage it for him. So in that 10-year period, I've had to deal with the city a lot, with tenants issue, with zoning issues, but it's always been a good relationship there as well. It's always been good.
Great.
Now,
Great.
and I still do that.
I wanted to ask you about some of the different boards you've served on. You were Wellstar Foundation Board. Are you still on that, or?
No, that was, I don't remember the years that I was involved there. It was only Bernie Brown when he was chair at that time. I don't remember, and I was there a couple of 3 years.
And then North Metro Tech.
North Metro. I chaired the North Metro Tech Board, Foundation Board, until the merger. When the two schools merged, became Chattahoochee.
And then you were on a SPLOST oversight committee. Talk about that. This is for the Board of Education.
Right. Yeah, I was appointed on that SPLOST committee. Their job was to distribute the funds, budget the funds under the SPLOST, and that was a challenging group because it was so political. You had South Cobb, North Cobb, East Cobb, West Cobb, all everybody trying to get at the money.
Get the money.
And it was a challenge. I only stayed on it a couple of years. It was just too challenging for me.
How did you get on the committee?
The representative on the board from this community appointed me. His name's, gosh, I see his face.
Let's see, this will be a representative on the school board.
Yeah, he's running for re-election right now. I think out in a minute.
Not Chastain.
No.
Banks? Who else is on the school board now? That's okay. But 2 years was enough.
2 years was enough, yeah. Was in my classes, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll think of it in a minute.
Sorry, we might need to edit something out of the video.
Yeah, delete that out.
Okay. We just take the whole thing out. You were also on the foundation for Durham Middle School, but something that we haven't really talked about a little bit is that, I interviewed your parents back in the late 80s on the family farm, and you lived down the road from the farm, or was it part of the farm property
No.
where you lived?
No, where I lived, my dad had bought that farm back in the early 50s. I guess it would have been in the 70s, early 70s. My brother and I bought the farm from my dad, bought that farm and split it. It was at the end of Hill Road.
End of
Hill Road.
Hill Road, okay.
And but that's where we lived at that time. When my parents passed away, there was 4 children still living. None of us could afford to buy the farm. I mean, it was 80 acres, and this was a period of time when land prices had
gone up.
So, of course, we were approached by construction contract developers. Well, first off, it didn't have sewer, and that would have meant you'd had to put septic tanks on 80 acres, and I was not a septic tank person. And
I hadn't thought about that. So your parents had an outhouse their whole life?
no,
They had indoor
We
plumbing?
had septic tank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to think about putting a septic
But
tank
if
on
you're gonna have a
80
development,
acres,
yeah, right, right,
you could do it legally. You could do it, put it on half-acre lots.
yeah.
But anyway, we've talked about it, and we first thought, well, let's see if we can talk the Parks and Recreation into buying this. We couldn't afford to give it to them, but because the girls needed the money, both all of us did. But we went to the parks, and they said, no, we don't have any money. So Lindsay Tippins was on the board of directors of school board at that time, and I called Lindsay and I said, Lindsay, you think there's any chance the Board of Education might be interested in our property? And he said, oh, I know you know Lindsay, I'm sure. Well, let me check on that. Well, he called me back 3 or 4 weeks later and he said, yeah, I got somebody who wants to come talk to you. So we started discussion then with the school. They didn't want the whole 80 acres. They only wanted enough to put one school on. So we said, no, it's either all or none. So they went back and said, well, we need an elementary school, and in a couple of years, we're probably going to need a middle school. So we'll talk about
The way
buying.
that area was growing, I imagine
it
they
was.
did.
I mean, obviously, it was best decision ever made. We were able to negotiate with them and discounted the sale and sold the property to them. The elementary school was named for Mr. Fry, who had the Fry Gin in Kennesaw. That's Fry Elementary was named for him.
Now, is that Steve Fry, or his son John Fry?
No, Steve.
For Steve, okay.
Yeah.
And Fry Road,
Right.
edge of Kennesaw campus. and
Right.
They had that land too.
Right. And so anyway, because I petitioned them to name it Durham, named Fry Durham, and they said, no, it's already gone too far. So they said, just be patient. We got another plan. So a year later, it comes out, we're going to build a new middle school. So Lindsay was still on the board at that time, and so I called Lindsay and I said, Lindsay, we really would like to have that school named after our family. And so anyway, they did, and they honored my parents. It's Harvey and Bessie Durham Middle School.
That's fabulous.
Yeah,
It was very appropriate since it was their farm.
yeah. But,
So each of those schools has 40 acres then.
yeah, I'm not sure how they split it up. There's still a good little chunk of it that's not utilized at all.
Yeah.
So, but
Plenty of room for
used-
growth though.
yeah, they used a lot of it.
Wow. Okay. You very early in the interview you mentioned it, but why did you decide to move into town?
Well, we built on our 60 acres at the end of Hill Road. At that time, there were just a few houses on that road, so the traffic wasn't bad. And then another farm sold and developed, and then another one, then other people. When we just finally decided to move, we took our lives in our hands every time we tried to get into Mars Hill Road. We petitioned to get a SIG traffic light there unsuccessfully, but the traffic was just so bad, and we needed to downsize a little bit too. The house we were in is just bigger than we needed for 2 people. So. But we really enjoy where we are now. We're next to the Methodist Church overlooking Lake Ackworth, kind of a little small old subdivision. That's probably one of the first, the house was built back in the 51 or 52. It may be one of the first subdivisions that was built in Ackworth. The owner and the developer of this was his house. So, but that was our real goal, was to downsize and get out of so much traffic. And we love it.
Okay.
Of course, Ackworth is such a neat place to live, to shop, to eat.
Well, I wanted to end by asking you what makes Ackworth different or special for you.
Well, the leadership, number one. The council, who most of them have been there for 15 years or more. Tommy's he's been the mayor for 4 terms, I think now. Butch Price and Tim Richardson, all of those. But we also got new people coming on. James Albright. James Albright just recently took the job as city manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, extremely young,
Mm-hmm.
extremely smart, and he has the city of Ackworth at heart. He was started out as recreation.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably started out as a broomer or doing something very menial, but he's developed into a great leader, be a Christian-oriented leader, and but he has surrounded himself with people of his same character, and who support him and the city. It's a safe city. We've got an excellent police department. We just have a new police chief, who I've not met yet, but I know a lot about him. And new city people. A lot of the people have retired, but they've been very careful about replacement. Even replaced like the police chief. He didn't come on board for almost a year after he got hired. I don't think he was actually hired, but he replaced a great individual and mentored under him for a long time. It's just it's a safe place, a friendly place, progressive, but conservative. So just a good place to live. I want to die. I want to die here. That's where I want to. That's where I want to spend my last days.
Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to include in the interview that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. I appreciate what you do, and obviously, as we've talked before the interview, our time goes way back when you interviewed my parents back in the 80s.
I think you had something to do with suggesting them as a topic for an interview.
I could have.
I think you were. I think that's how it came about, that you suggested to somebody that we should interview them.
And I appreciate that. I really do. That's a historical treasure that I will keep till I die. And my grandchildren read it as well. But
Well, I just remember sitting out there on that farm interviewing them and thinking, this land is worth a ton of money these days, and yet to them selling it is not the value. It's being there on that land that money couldn't. Money wasn't that important to them. The lifestyle they were living was what was important.
Exactly. We would have loved to have been able to have kept it. In looking back, I'm not sure that it would have been possible because none of us were really financially in position to and you couldn't make a living farming. I mean, you couldn't generate enough income to pay taxes off the farm.
Right.
So it was a decision, a very difficult decision to make. But I think we made the right decision in that the heritage of the family, the history of the family got carried on through the school. People now look for a place to live where they can go to send their kids to Fry School, Durham Elementary, and Alatoona High School. That is the community they want to live in. Of course, Ackworth is kind of picking and choosing too, but it's this whole northwest Cobb area is the place to live.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.